Park School District school year. We've been working all summer, hopefully getting a little rest and respite, but also preparing for a great school year, and it's going to be a great school year. And now we get to start in a couple of days, well, in 1 or 2 days, depending on which school you're at. We'll have students in the classroom, and it will begin again. But you know what? It's not the same. No school year is the same, right? You have new kids, new classes, you have new relationships, you have new needs, you have new supports, and we recognize that every student is unique. We have a lot of things going on this morning. Hopefully you will find it beneficial. Hopefully you'll find it highly informative. But some of the things that we're going to be talking about, not me personally, but people much better informed than I am on the details. We're going to talk a little bit about some procedures that you'll want to be aware of for the school year. We're going to talk a little bit about some benefits and new supports available. And hopefully you'll find that equally exciting. And we're also going to talk a little bit about safety, new safety considerations, new safety processes, new safety practices, people, personnel, okay? But I'm going to start off with saying thank you all for being here. We have a wonderful school year ahead of us, but school is about teaching. It's about educating our students, and you, the teachers of Woodland Park School District, do all make it possible. We appreciate you, and we thank you. We try to do a lot preparing for this year to show you how much we appreciate you. We've implemented a significant raise again this year, following an 8.5% raise last year. We've implemented another 5% raise this year. If you're a new teacher, none of this is new, it's just what you have, but if you're from years prior, you understand that that's a significant, over 2 years, that's a significant improvement as we try and make certain that our educators are compensated comparably with the rest of the state and make certain that we're competitive in that landscape. We've also added a number of benefits. We've tripled your life insurance, which I think is a significant benefit to you, particularly to your families. I hope they appreciate it at no cost, of course. We have added professional liability insurance, which you'll have available. PACE provides it. You can also be a member of PACE and take advantage of other PACE benefits, and we'll have someone here to talk about that. But that's up to you. You don't have to do that. The professional liability insurance is free and is provided to every school-based employee in the district. We've also added Rocket Lawyer Services. If you'd like some basic legal support for documents or agreements or some quick advice on business needs, it's something that we can make available to you for free, and we're happy to do that. And so you have that available to yourself as well. Again, you don't have to participate in that if you don't want to log on and give your email address and do that website support, but it's available to you. And I hope you will take advantage of it. I find that over the years it's been beneficial to a lot of people, and hopefully you'll find it beneficial as well. This is a new year, and with a new year comes change. And with this year, there are a lot of new programs. And I know some of you are aware of these changes. Some of you, again, if you're new, you just say, it's not a change, this is what we're doing, and that's great. If it's a change for you, then please embrace it, understand it. If you have questions, talk to your principal. I'm sure your principals will be going through some of this over the next few weeks. But also, if you have any questions about how do we shift the focus, how do we get this done, come talk to Kim Moore. Talk to me, and let's make sure that we have an open dialogue about what we're doing. Number one, a big change in Woodland Park School District is we have universal pre-K, which we'll be participating in this year. That will significantly impact all of our elementary schools. We'll have more pre-K students than we have had before, and the format and the curriculum will be a little bit different. But I do want to emphasize that if it's in our schools, then we're going to pay attention to the curriculum. We're going to make certain that it is constructive, that it's beneficial, that it's effective, that it's focused on the academic success and the preparation for these kids to achieve academic success in public education. We've moved to capturing kids' hearts this year. That's going to be a significant culture change in our schools. I think it'll be very beneficial. It'll help us focus. Each month we'll have a different character trait that we're going to focus on. We're going to do it across all of our schools, so it'll be a consistent message. And you'll you've already learned some about that, but you'll learn more about that as the year progresses. Some of you have already been to training on it. Some of you will go to training on it in a little while. But I'm excited about that. I've seen how effective it is in a number of schools over the years, and I'm excited to have it at Woodland Park. I thank Kim Moore for bringing that in. We've connected. We've also implemented mental health services from a company called MindSight. They'll provide mental health services for qualified students. If they're struggling or they need support, they can contact them. We can work through that process with them. It's a new relationship. It's going to be a great relationship. And we even, with the posters and the information we're putting in our schools, we've even tied it into the Capturing Kids' Hearts method for a separate focus area of character development each month. So hopefully you'll see those tie-ins, and it'll help reinforce the message and the culture and the focus in your schools each month. So I think that's going to be awesome to have those tied together and have reinforcement across platforms here. School safety. We're going to have school safety officers walking around the school. That'll be new. Now, you've had an SRO before. Historically, significantly, a few years back, we had more than one SRO. In the last year or two, we've only had one SRO. And this year, the Woodland Park Police Department was unable to provide an SRO. So we are providing armed security in the schools. They'll be mobile, they'll be moving around. We're not going to provide a whole lot of detail about when and where for reasons of safety. But you'll recognize them, you'll be informed, your principals will certainly be informed who they are and how they're going to move about. And hopefully you'll understand that this is to make certain that our students are safe. We put a high priority not just on the educational environment and its academic focus, but on the fact that our students have to be safe in their learning environment. And unfortunately, the reality of our current educational environment is that safety has to be a priority, and we have to know what we're going to do if there's ever a problem. So we are going to secure our students, and we're going to do it in a number of different ways. We're not going to just depend on someone else's business. Last but not least, I want to give you a heads up that we're going to be tightening up our truancy policies. So Kim Moore will be communicating with the principals. We'll be rolling out a better defined and a little tighter process for truancy. As you all know as teachers, the hardest thing to deal with is trying to educate a child who has missed significant amounts of the instruction that they needed to be able to stay up and to keep a pace. Once you've fallen behind, the catch-up is so hard. And if it becomes chronic, it becomes almost impossible to make certain that that child is well educated. So we're going to tighten up our truancy policies. We're going to ensure that our students are in class so that they can learn and so that they're best supported, so that we can early intervene where we see that they need help, rather than letting them get desperately behind and constantly playing a catch-up, an unwinnable catch-up game, quite frankly. So hopefully those things sound good to you. If they don't, ask questions. If they don't make sense, ask questions. Talk to your principals. I think it's going to be a great school year. I know these programs are going to make Woodland Park School District an even better district. And this is not the end of change. I promise you the change is going to keep coming. We're going to keep improving our school district. We're going to keep improving our education and our students' academic success. We will always be laser focused on the academic success of Woodland Park students. With that, I'd like to introduce my staff so that you know who does what. Now, most of you have certainly met them at one point or another, but I think it's good to have a little bit of clarity. You all know that I've been with the superintendent, but I have a handful of direct reports that are responsible for various areas, and I'd like to quickly recognize them and talk a little bit about what they're responsible for. So I'm going to start with Kim Moore. Raise your hand. Everybody knows Kim Moore, probably. She is awesome. Who is she? She is our Chief Academic Officer. That means she is over the staff and the academic processes in our schools. And if you have a question about any of the programs we've implemented, about what the expectations are in our schools for culture, capturing kids' heart, our curriculum, our focus on standards, our assessment questions, Kim is the expert. Make certain that you talk to her. Aaron Salt, you just heard from him. Aaron, wave. Aaron is a blast. He does a lot of things, so I know he's in and around your schools a lot. He has a great sense of humor, and I'm sure all of you have chuckled at one point or another with something he said in the halls. Aaron is responsible for all things not academic or not school education based. So the majority of them, I'll have one more in a minute, but that means security, that means facilities, that means HR. So when you have those HR questions, those benefits questions, Aaron has someone on his staff that you all know, Peggy Gonzalez. Peggy, are you by any chance in here too? Peggy is an awesome support for all of you, and I hope that you have gotten to know her, but if you don't, please do. You will find her an awesome support. Amy Ryan, are you here? Stand up. Wave. Amy Ryan is our Chief Financial Officer. So Amy is responsible for all things money. And unfortunately, that means all things bills. So if you have questions about budgets or allocations or what the annual budget meant when it said this big number here and where does this stuff fit in that budget, Amy can answer the question. If you're trying to get a bill paid or trying to get a plan executed that's in the annual plan, Amy can tell you how to get that done and how to allocate it properly. So she supports your schools, she supports the district, she is absolutely the master of money, and make certain that you get to know Amy if you haven't already. We have communications. We have parents to talk to, we have a community to talk to, we have news outlets. We communicate every day outside of our school in one way or another. It's a huge job, and we have a chief communications officer who is responsible for that. Lindsay, where are you? So Lindsay is responsible for all communications. Make sure that we're consistent, that our approach to communicating is consistent, that our message is clear, concise, and accurate. So communications go through Lindsay. Make certain that you know her. If you think the school should be messaging something other than the principal's newsletter, make certain that Lindsay is involved in crafting those messages. If you have any trouble figuring out how to do that, just pick up the phone and call her. She is the easiest person in the world to work with, and we so appreciate her. And last but absolutely not least, Kelly Haven, stand up. Kelly keeps the ship upright. She does everything that needs to be done that someone can't put a finger on and say, well, that's Amy's job, or that's Aaron's job. When you say, I don't know whose job it is, Kelly steps up. She makes certain that we have the right information, that we know why things were done 5 years ago, when we're talking about what we should be doing now. She's the one who helps us interact with some of the formal requirements that we have to meet in compliance. She is the board liaison and master of board communications. She is awesome, and we appreciate her so much. Thank you. And with that, I want to welcome you to another school year. I hope you're as excited as I am. It really is an exciting time. I love the first week of school. And if you have any needs, if you have any questions, reach out. But I hope you get those classrooms and have as much fun this year as you should, because you have the greatest job in the world. You get to teach. And thank you for it. And I'm wrong, it's me. So next up is Ariel Elliott with PACE. She's going to talk a little bit about not your professional liability insurance, but if you want to be a member of PACE, if you want to take advantage of any of the other benefits, she's going to tell you what those are and how you can participate. We have not provided email addresses, physical addresses, phone numbers. None of your personal information has been provided to PACE. It's up to you to decide if you want to participate in PACE other than or beyond having professional liability insurance. So here's Ariel to talk about that.
Thank you, Kim. Good morning, everybody. So happy to be here today. My name is Ariel Elliott, and I'm with Professional Association of Colorado Educators. I'm here to tell you about a great new employee benefit your school district has purchased for each of you this school year. Thank you so much for allowing me to come celebrate the start of the new school year with you and to share more about the new employee benefit. Let me summarize first what I'll cover in my presentation. I'm happy to discuss with all and each of you. I know you may have questions for me specific to you, and my contact information will be on the last slide. We also sent packets to each of you earlier this year that are or will be distributed by the schools. Second, I'll introduce PACE. Next, most of the presentation slides are highlights about the liability insurance policy and related legal support. Lastly, I'll touch base just a bit on other benefits available to you through PACE membership. We can go to the next slide. Your district has purchased a $2 million insurance liability policy on your behalf that is in your name. This policy includes job protection coverage, teacher certification protection, and more. The policy coverage started July 1st, 2023. You are not required to use the policy or prevented from joining any other association. Your district negotiated a discounted rate for this policy through PACE, a 501c6 professional association, at no additional cost to you. The policy is identical to the one purchased individually by educators across the nation for $234 a year. If you leave Woodland Park School District, you can continue this coverage by purchasing an individual membership through PACE or AAE. Your personal information was not requested by or provided to PACE. The only information that we have, your name for the policy, your school to mail the insurance certificate. PACE does not publish or make public which educators are members or have been members, and does not share publicly which educators receive benefits through their employer. You are eligible for a full membership benefits in PACE. That includes newsletters, advocacy training, discounts, and etc. By providing contact information at joinpace.org/WPSD, you are also able to opt out completely from this employee benefit if you prefer, using the same link. Much of this information, including the link above, was included in packets sent to the school that started in July 2023. Now I'm going to discuss PACE's entire membership. Our mission and vision. We champion professionalism for educators. We believe that teaching must be student-oriented, well-respected, and personally fulfilling. Empowered and supported professional educators, enabling students to achieve their full potential. Protection means peace of mind. Through this employee benefit, you now have $2 million individual liability insurance policy in your name. Defense costs are paid in addition to this amount. Liability insurance purchased by educators can cost several of hundreds of dollars individually and upwards of $1,000 through other associations, and lack additional features of our policy. School district policies cannot provide adequate liability insurance coverage for educators and school staff. Limit for the entire district for the entire year. in the name of the district, not the employee, may be exhausted before supporting employee, often do not include legal fees, and lack additional features of our policy. Your plan provides coverage for claims brought at any time, as long as the occurrence that resulted in litigation occurred while your policy was in effect. You'll be covered even if you've retired, as long as your coverage was in effect, in force when the incident happened. Common exposures to liability. Injuries to students under your supervision. Improper placement of students. Defamation. Failure to educate. Failure to promote students or grant credit. Violation of student civil rights. Improper methods employed in instruction, counseling, research, design, and etc. In addition, this policy includes up to $11,900 in job protection coverage, up to $35,000 in coverage to protect your teaching license, up to $50,000 against false sexual criminal misconduct charges. Job protection coverage provides legal support if your job is threatened. Initially, up to $1,500 to consult with an attorney. An additional $2,500 to work with an attorney if a hearing is requested. Up to $8,000 after a $100 deductible if you successfully file a lawsuit to address the matter. Non-pecuniary coverage provides legal support if your teaching license is threatened. Reimburses 90% of attorney fees up to $35,000. Criminal sexual misconduct protection provides legal support if you are falsely accused of criminal sexual misconduct charges. Reimburses 90% of attorney fees up to $50,000. Must be found not guilty or the charge is dropped. At the onset of any workplace issue, contact PACE AAE Legal Services at the information provided on the screen. Your communication with PACE AAE is not shared with anyone outside of PACE and AAE. PACE and AAE legal staff, service staff help with answering questions confidentially, exploring next steps and options, finding an attorney if applicable, filing a claim if applicable. You are able to use any qualified attorney. Many attorneys we work with receive payment directly from the insurance company. Our full membership benefits. In addition to legal support and liability insurance, PACE membership includes professional development and advocacy, resources and training opportunities, additional scoring weight in PACE's teacher scholarship and classroom grant program, members only newsletter, Education Matters, education policy surveys on important issues, discounts on groceries, shopping, entertainment, and more. Discounts on supplemental insurance plans, life, home, auto, disability, and more. PACE is grateful to serve Woodland Park educators. You can connect with me, Ariel, at any time. This is my cell phone number and my direct email address. And you can learn more at any time at joinpace.org. Thank you for having me here today. You guys have the most successful school year.
Thank you very much, Ariel. Just so you know, if you joined or assigned with Woodland Park School District in June or July, your packets may not be available on first day. You'll have them very shortly, but we have to send a second list. So the documentation is being prepared right now, and you should have it in a day or two. But you are covered. With that, I think our next unit is Brad Miller to talk a little bit about new procedure in the Woodland Park School District. Thank you.
I'm a lawyer. I never expect any sort of a warm welcome and these sorts of things. So thank you even for a little bit of applause. I do appreciate it. Hi, I'm Brad Miller. I'm a lawyer for the district. I am a man of mystery, I think, in many places. I tend to be described as kind of working around the edges and so forth, and really appreciate a chance to be with you here today. My law firm, we represent schools and districts serving about 130,000 students, so Woodland Park's not the only place where I present, but kind of like Johnny Cochran, and if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. Johnny Cochran represented hundreds of clients before OJ, but he's remembered for OJ. I feel like I might be remembered for Woodland Park. You guys have had an interesting year or two, so welcome to a new year here. So, as a lawyer, I've often thought I'm probably the most reviled sort of profession there is out there, and as you guys know, particularly since COVID, teachers have been under incredible pressure. It's been really, really difficult to be an educator. And my family's full of educators. I taught in Southern California before I went to law school. My son and daughter, my wife, my mother-in-law have all been teachers. And it always seemed to be just a warm, parents support you sort of thing. And in the last couple of years, I know it's not been quite that way. In our culture, in this school district, I know it's really hard. I appreciate what you guys do. I genuinely do. So, I came to Woodland Park, and I won't indulge in a long self-introduction, but just a few tidbits. Came to Woodland Park at the invitation of a new board. As you probably likely know, it was partially because I had a backstory with Merit Academy, which is the new charter school, partially because I generally represent a lot of the southern Colorado schools and school districts, and I'm a known quantity. And it's partly political, frankly. The board members are conservatives. I'm viewed as a conservative school reformer type, and I know that this has been a chaotic and churning type of scenario for you. My firm belief, my real belief, is that your board's agenda isn't a power struggle. In their minds, they haven't been thinking that we're fighting the union or fighting something like that. I think that they genuinely wanted to provide an environment where academics are ascendant and primary and the focus. And a lot of the stuff that's gone on around that, I know it's been difficult, but there's two people in your community who have sent over 300 Colorado Open Record Act requests for the emails and the workings of this board. You see there's constant articles. Let's give them a break, because it's a really hard environment to work in, because there's so many constant pressures. It's kind of that fishbowl sort of thing. And I just wanted to slightly call them out. They're trying their best. They're very good people. In the same way, I know you guys are too. And you feel like you're in a fishbowl. And I want to give you a few tools, and then I want to end with a update, sort of a training on what we're going to take as a district approach on a very difficult, challenging issue, which is that of gender expression and gender identity. So I'm going to hit that pretty firmly at the end of what I have to say here. I'll start with social media. We've seen in the news, because we've been sued, that a policy in the district KDDA has been identified as being in violation of the law, and we'll see what the courts say about that. But the point of that policy, I want to make sure that you feel some freedom. It's not to get in the way of teachers being involved in social media, talking to parents, working with your community. The point of it was that if there was a need to call a snow day, to give a light example, if there was a need to call a snow day, the district ought to make that call rather than someone saying on social media that the district called a snow day. That sort of information is the sort of thing that the administration ought to get. You certainly are free to say, we got 2 feet of snow out there, we ought to call a snow day. You can express your opinions, and this policy doesn't pretend to get in the way of that. It wants to find a way to make sure that the official communications of the district are gone through the official channels. You should feel some freedom around that. I know that the media has expressed it in different ways, but that's not the intent. And if you look over the past year, that's not been the practice. Usually I'm sitting in an environment where I say, does anybody have any questions? But that's probably not the right approach here. I will stick around, and for those of you that would want to interact with me, I mean, we're going to say, who wants to talk to a lawyer? But I will be around. I'll probably walk into the foyer and hang out. If somebody wants to catch me on something after I'm done here, feel free. A tool that I want to provide to you. I do this in a lot of the districts that I work in. I know that there's an increase in things like subpoenas or requests from some social worker for you to, or an investigator more often, to have a talk or maybe go to court over the custody things that are just increasing in frequency in our world. I want to assure you that in that sort of thing, if you just go through your principal, they can reach me, and I will always be available, or my team will always be available to help you work through that. Oftentimes we can get folks out of subpoenas, for example. I do that probably 50% of the time. It works because what you have to say isn't really fitting to the custody case. And so let's get you out of court when we can. I bring that one up because in some of the places I work, it seems to be almost a daily occurrence that districts are getting these subpoenas. So if you have those sorts of things or parent challenges, maybe you've got a parent who's just obsessively sending you emails and it just feels like overwhelming. Take it to your principal. The principals can call me and I can intervene. There's ways that we can help you kind of stave off the pressures from outside the classroom. You guys should be focused in the classroom. And Mr. Witt, I took that and suggested that, but I really do think that's a service that we should provide, and so we will do that. Couple small legislative updates. This, our government in Colorado is a unified, in terms of party affiliation, it's Democrat, House Democrat, Senate Democrat, governor, and they've, in the last session, they've sort of begun to align around, certain viewpoints and orientations, and it's a lot in the area of protecting student rights, which I think is wonderful. The way this has been expressed is that there are far many regulations around student expulsion, student discipline, and there's new law coming up that's going to be in place next year around bullying. To that end, we're going to have additional. My brother-in-law is a politician. More people hate him than hate me. It's amazing, but he's predicting, because so many of the Democrats in the legislature, which just took a supermajority in the last election, were freshmen in the last session, that they're going to have their feet under them and be more sort of focused and able to bring forward and pass legislation. And I particularly think it's going to come in the education genre. We had 60 bills passed in education last year in the legislation, and we're thinking it's going to be at least that many, and they're going to be a little bit more sort of regulatory oriented. And so I probably will be providing a training of some sort, probably in writing to your principals, but we have some very new procedures that we have to put into place in terms of reporting bullying, in terms of documenting student disciplines. Just put in your brain that as I have students engage disruptively in my classroom behaviors, it's going to be more important ever to write it down and put it into your student information system and keep track of these things, because we're going to have a heavier burden in terms of dealing with those on the back end. So the thing I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is our protocol for students who, under the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act and in accordance with their own beliefs, want to express or identify their gender differently than what they were born. And in Woodland Park, as is the case with many, many districts, not just districts that I serve, but many, many districts, we're going to consider that the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act is law, and it's unavoidable law, and even to the extent that we think a child might be being drawn in by friends, or maybe the parent influence or whatever. If we think it's right or wrong, we have to respect these decisions. It's the law. But on top of that is the U.S. Supreme Court, which in 2000 passed a particular case called Granville versus Troxel in the year 2000. And that case stands for the proposition that we probably know intimately as we think about it, that parents are the authority in their child's education for all educational decisions. So if we're going to put them on an IEP, parents have to be involved. We're going to move to a different school, that's a change in placement, parents have to be involved. In all of these things, parents are the authority. So in Woodland Park, we're not going to be rigid on this, but if a child were to come to a teacher, our request is we bring that to an administrator. The administrator, rather than saying yes to a change in pronouns, a yes to a change in identity, a yes to a change in expression, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to take it to an administrator. The administrator is going to invite parents to a conversation. And we're going to explain to them that we're going to have integrity. We're not going to hide from you parents what your child has expressed. Now, there is a caveat to that. If we think that the parent would harm the child, if we think that there's security issues for the child, we might go in a different direction. We might go through DHS or something, or through counselors. But in the mainstream, we're going to say, well, we're going to bring your parents into this conversation. And then we'll bring the parents, if possible, both, to a conversation. We'll talk about protocols. Does this, for your child, involve simply maybe a nickname? Does it involve a change in the way they're going to present, dress and clothing? Or is it going to include things like, I want to be on a different sports team, or I want to use the male bathroom and I'm a female, biologically? We want to work through that with the parents, because we're going to respect that it's the parents' decision to make. And then whatever decision comes from that, we'll try to create pathways, communication, which teachers and which staff members should be aware and informed, and to what degree, and then we're going to implement that. But we're not going to just start with a child coming to the teacher and saying, hi, Mrs. Jones, I'm Susie, I now want to be Johnny. We're not going to avoid the difficult, challenging process of including parents and getting their decision implemented before we go forward on that. I think that's potentially clarity, potentially a change in what you experienced in the past, but that's what we're going to do in Woodland Park going forward this year. We're not going to push on it. We're not going to try to take a stand on right or wrongness of these things, but we are going to include parents, because that's exactly the way we do everything in Woodland Park, and so that's what we'll go for. It's really good to see you all in person. I get to sit lurking in the back of boardrooms and hear things and all that, and